Hello and welcome to the AUTOMOTIVEFlux channel. So this is actually the fourth time that I've tried to record this. Needless to say, I'm not too pleased with my computer right now. It keeps crashing and it's incredibly annoying. But anyway, let's just get into the video. So today is Wednesday, and Wednesday means dirt, so we're going to continue to play more dirt. We're doing this opening championship, or what did I just say? We're doing this open style in this championship just because I want to drive the Colin McRae car. We're going to be doing the rest of this triangular base pyramid, and then at the end of it all we will move on to the smaller triangular base pyramids. Ooh, that was a real crappy one there. I was just thinking now, like, with all this trouble recording, I'm really hoping that Lightworks holds up and does not break on me. Because, my goodness. I don't think I can take it. It's really frustrating when you record something. Like, I just recorded half the video, and then it crashed. And I was so disappointed, so let's hope that this one gets through. I would have kept the other half, but Audacity couldn't recover the audio, unfortunately, so there was no point. I just decided that I may as well try again, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're gonna move on to those mini little championships, which are specialized specifically for different events, and then we will do the open areas. And then we'll be doing the, the open areas. We'll try and get all of the little things that you collect in those. So, should be fun. And then, like I said, we'll probably do a stream or maybe a longer video or something of me trying to finish off some of the races that we didn't get perfect on, just because... Well, just because I kind of feel like doing that. I've gotten a lot of races done first place in this game, so may as well just try and get them all. And that's what I was thinking. So I'm going to talk about what I talked about last video again. Hopefully better this time. But I'm just like praying that it doesn't crash, because my goodness, it's super frustrating. But anyway. So I have a lot of weird ideas, and I like to think about them when I'm working. The job that I do is pretty basic, and it doesn't require much thinking, so I can daydream while I'm working, and that's exactly what I do. So I think about these ideas that I have, and I'm like, I kind of mull them over and give them a lot of time to just sit in my head so I can think about them. And that's the way I like to do things. I really do like to think about things before I do them. I'm not an impulse type person. I don't just buy stuff. I don't just do things. I try to think about it first. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently is my future when it comes to projects. Project cars specifically. Not the game, but my IRL project car list of cars that I'd love to modify to turn into things like that dream list of stuff that are like, if you ever got the money, then you would do this, or if you ever had the time, then you would do this, that kind of thing. Now, like I just said, it is a dream list. Like, it is just a dream. There's no guarantee that I'll ever be able to do any of this stuff, but I feel as though coming up with these sort of ideas and dreaming about them is not a bad thing, and it's not an unhealthy thing to do. It kind of gives me hope for the future and a reason to continue. Being somebody who really likes cars, I just hope that my future involves them in some way, if in nothing else but a hobby. So one of the ideas that I had, for example, is get an older Stingray Corvette from I guess it would be the 70s. They were light back then. They're made out of fiberglass, at least the body panels were. But they came with a big engine, and they weren't that great at handling. So my thinking was, why don't we just reverse that, give it a smaller engine, but make it just insane at handling. And I think that would be a really cool project to do. Obviously this wouldn't be a first project, because it would involve a lot of suspension, grafting suspension from other cars onto the car to change its driving style completely. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about here. And what might be blasphemy to Corvette owners is my idea of putting a 4-cylinder turbo, or maybe a V6 in the car to change up its power plant and make it a lot lighter at the front. Now, I know that that seems a little nuts, and it probably is, because having a car like that, you want to have big power. But the whole point of my build idea is keep it light, keep it good at handling, not turn it into a Miata. Like, it still give it a good amount of power, but just make something that's fun to drive around the corners and not just a straight line, like drag queen style. And it would not be a restoration by any means. I'd be gutting it completely and like redoing all of the wiring, just everything. Now this is a really odd situation because there are 3 cars ahead of me, and I have never experienced this in the game before. We're all separated, but somehow they've caught up to each other, and we get the opportunity to pass some people, which is odd. But yeah, we just kind of cut that corner pretty rough there and cross the bridge, and we're past everybody. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so one of my other ideas, and the one I've been thinking about more and more recently, is getting into rallycross, or rallying. And I'm talking about amateur, I'm not talking about driving a car like this. I'm talking about roadworthy cars, legal cars. This is where we got stuck last time, so let's hope we get through. Okay, good. Yeah, so road legal cars, not necessarily street rallies, but ones that do involve public roads. I think they, like, I've been researching more and more just to figure out what kind of stuff goes on in the area where I live, and there is a rally league here. I read the rules for the amateur league, because I'm nothing but an amateur, let's be honest, and they require that your car is street legal, so I assume that part of the course involves the street. But here's my idea, okay? Here's my idea. I was looking on Kijiji, yes, Kijiji, to see what kind of cars were available for around a $2,000 budget. I'll talk about that in a second, actually. Why not right now? So, my first thought was, I went on YouTube and I started to look around at things. I went and I saw somebody who had a $200 rally build, and some people who have like a $5,000 rally build. And the more I thought about it, the more I decided that I think it would be better for me in the future, as my future self. Knowing my skill level, it would be better for me to drive a car that already runs and already is close-ish to being street legal, so it's not a ridiculous pain to get going or super expensive. So when it comes to the cost of the car, I was looking for something in the $2,000 range rather than the $200 range. If you know what I mean, like 200 would be non-running, and 2,000, it would have to run for 2,000. Like, come on, people. So I was looking around the $2,000 range, all-wheel drive cars, just to see what kind of stuff you can get for that money. And there wasn't much. There wasn't much good stuff around that cost. One thing that I did find, I found it kind of interesting, and this is where the idea comes in. But a lot of these rallies are done with Subarus, and I understand. I drove one for 4 years. I've owned a Subaru. I know what it's like to drive in the snow and to drive it in the dirt a little bit. Like, those cars are perfect for it, and the handling is Like, the handling is good, the all-wheel drive system is excellent, engines are debatable, to be honest, but they do give a decent amount of power for the size and weight, and Subarus are all over the place and parts are just everywhere, so it's very easy to understand why people decide to go with them. And one of the things I also noticed is that people also seem to like older BMWs in these rallies, and that's cool too. But what about Mercedes? Now, before you cringe a little bit too hard here, I found online a C-Class, it's a 2004 C-Class, with a bunch of kilometers on it. It's a 2.6 liter V6, I think, but it's a 4MATIC, so it's all-wheel drive. And yeah, that gave me some ideas, that gave me a few ideas. Now, I am somebody who likes to be unique. I like to do things that are unique and to approach situations in a unique way, a way that other people don't necessarily think to. And oftentimes that costs me more than other people. For example, if I was to spend like $2,000 on a Subaru, I'd be better off than if I spent $2,000 on the C-Class, for example. The reasons for that are, well, for one, it's an old Mercedes, and they are known to have a ton of issues. It's not easy to fix. It's not something that has parts readily available. This is a really nice rally track. I actually really like it. But it's not a car that has a lot of parts available. There are a lot of these older cars around, a lot of these C and E-Class cars, but it's not anywhere near as common as a Subaru, at least here in Canada. I said already, it's not well supported by the aftermarket like Subaru is. You can find suspension for your Subaru that raises it up just on eBay, but that's not something that you'd find for a Mercedes. But I think that it would be incredibly cool to be able to drive something like that fast down a track. Well, it wouldn't be a track unless it was rallycross, but on a rally. And I think it would be an adequate challenge for somebody like me who's looking for a long-term project. Now, my thoughts on this are pretty simple. When it comes to these novice rallies, these amateur rallies, they don't have a lot of safety rules. They don't require you to have a cage. They're like, take a helmet, grab a partner, we'll give you a list, and you can just ride around our course and see who's the fastest overall. Oh, that's a hairpin. Let's get around that. And so I was thinking of going a little bit farther. These novice rallies just require road cars, but what if we went with something a little bit more hardcore? Now, the car that I was looking at, it was as is, and here in the Canada, as is means two things. One, it is not certified, and two, it is not e-tested, and those are two things that need to be completed for a car to be road legal. Now, when it came to my Subaru, I had a lot of issues with this. It cost me well over $1,000 to get it back on the road because of all the repairs that needed to be done to get it up to the safety standards and the e-test standards, and it was a massive pain, and it was a huge headache, and it was just not good. Now, that is the biggest issue with this. If I was to buy this car to be purely a race car, it would never touch the street, then it would be a lot easier, because you could just cut off all this stuff right away, just rip out any sensors you don't need, and then have as many engine lights as you want, kind of thing. But unfortunately, with this rally course type thing, they do require street legal, so I'm not keeping track of how long these episodes are at all. I have no idea.
Yes, that's what we're looking for. Just keep that up.
I want to talk about this more. Let's just keep going. So my idea is pretty simple. It would be buying in this car getting it street legal so that it passes those tests, and then it can be ready for...
You're DC's biggest
Oh
fan,
man, this is annoying. Come on, people, we don't have time for this.
challenge.
Okay, we're gonna do this, let's do the rallycross one. It's gonna be a longer video for sure, but I'm feeling it today. I want to talk about this stuff. Let's go with the Focus ST. So, continue to pray for me that this computer does not crash, because my goodness, I actually want to die. No, I'm kidding. I shouldn't kid about that, but I do all the time. Hypocritical. Anyway, so my idea would be to get this Mercedes up to code, basically. Get it on the street. Get it street legal so you can drive it around, and that would be that. Now, I wouldn't want to enter a rally as is. On the inside of this car, it's a full leather car. Like it's got fancy stuff everywhere, like fancy as 2004 Mercedes could be. And that is not ideal for rallying. A 2.6 liter V6, it's not very powerful. It's not going to be moving that car quick enough to really mean anything. And I'm sure the tires at that point would be pretty crap. Because in order to get it to pass the safety, you've got to have newish tires, and probably going to want to get the crappiest ones possible just to barely pass safety, if you know what I mean. So that sort of leaves a bit of a blunder. Like, one of the things that I think when designing and building a rally car, or just a race car in general, you're going to want to test it out and see where it's good and see where it's not. And that would be before making significant modifications. That being said, I think that my first change to the car would be a drastic weight reduction. I'm talking about stripping it in, like, completely on the inside, taking out everything, like the headliner, everything. Relocating the power window switches, like taking off the door frame, not frame, but the door liner, replacing with some fabric or something. Like, just lighten the car extremely. I'm talking about racing seats. Keep it street legal, like you have to keep the seat in the normal seat belts, but possibly even a harness. The dash would have to stay, because again, you don't want engine lights. But basically the entire interior gone, and like the radio and all that, and just as light as it can possibly be. Now, for these events you do have to have a spare tire, so you can't just take that out. That would be a major weight reduction aspect, but you can't do that in this. So, that would be what I would do first. And then probably wheels. Now, I don't know what kind of wheels you would want for a rally. I have no idea, to be honest, at all. That kind of thing is something I still need to research, but I know that you're going to want some pretty aggressive tires, and probably going to be bigger than stock in sidewall at the minimum. So the fenders would probably have to be rolled, and in an ideal situation, the suspension would be changed so that the car could be lifted, but that may not come for a while. But for the very first rally, it would just be weight reduction online, and that's pretty much it. And then from there you can see where it has issues. So if the tires are rubbing on the inner fenders when you go around a corner, then you know that you've got to take those out. You got to roll the fenders or cut them or something. And then that kind of thing. Like, the more times that you drive the car and get used to how it drives, the better you're going to understand the car and know what needs to be changed on it. And that's where, like, this kind of thing has limitless potential, I would say. Except for the parts. That's definitely limiting. But again, I think that a budget would be in order for this. Probably $5,000 total. And that means that You'd have to like really pinch some pennies to be able to get that to work. I'm talking about spending money where it counts, rather than on things that don't really matter. Ooh, that was a cut and a half, if they had cuts in this game. Ooh, okay, get out of my way. But because the car is street legal, you could just attach a trailer hitch to it and pull your own wheels around. You don't need to get a trailer. I think that some challenges that present itself with this car in particular are, well, parts, like I said. Parts are huge. Probably going to have to buy an entire extra car just to have on the side for parts, because of how difficult it would be to get the proper Mercedes parts any other way. Now, when it comes to budget, one of the things I was majorly thinking about, trying to diagnose the wrong word, trying to decide what I thought about this, and obviously being a bit of a cynical person, I kind of assume sometimes that things are less than they are, but I feel that if you were to properly disassemble this car, like interior-wise, you could disassemble it. I think that you could probably get some decent money for the interior pieces and stuff like the seats and just some of the weirder bits as well. I don't even know what's in the car, but people are interested in that stuff. If you've got a Mercedes of your own and you're missing, say, a headrest, then you're going to want to buy it used, so you don't have to buy something from Mercedes. So you could probably make some decent money just selling off the interior of a car like this. Oh, a couple other ideas that I had as well. Oil pan is probably going to need to be covered. A skid plate, at least a very basic skid plate, would be a good idea. Like the exhaust is probably one of the lowest hanging pieces on the car, but you can't just cut it straight off because it needs to be able to pass emissions, if it wants to stay on the road, that is. So you're gonna have to, well, not you, but I would have to, I think that tucking the exhaust would be a good idea. The budget isn't really there to be able to just do a full custom exhaust, so tucking it would probably be the way to go. By that I mean raising the hangers up, like cutting the hangers shorter so that they go up higher, so the exhaust can go up like maybe a couple centimeters, just to give it that extra little bit of ground clearance. Things like the bumper at the front, if there's any kind of lip on the front bumper, you just take that right off, because you know it's just going to get destroyed by dirt. Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas on this kind of thing. I think I could talk about this for hours. If I actually had a car, though, if I had the money, and I do have... Okay, I don't have the money right now, but in the future it wouldn't be too difficult to buy that once I recover from buying a car like I just recently did. Wow, we're doing pretty good. But I think that sitting in front of the car, I could come up with a lot more ideas of things that could be changed and improved, and just things that can happen to keep it street legal but also make it better on the track. The track being the dirt track, because I'm not too interested in driving on the pavement track, to be honest. Alright, let's continue here. And this game has kind of inspired me a little bit. Obviously these cars are basically just cages with body panels, because... Oh wow, that was a little rough there. That's basically how this game works. Like, these are professional $100,000 cars, and being a student and just getting out of school, I would not have that money. Even working full-time, I wouldn't have enough money to spend $100K on a car, let's be real. Alright, get around the corner, come on. But I think that this idea is feasible. I don't think it's too out of the way. I don't think it's too ridiculous to be able to think that you can get into an amateur rally I'm sure that it'd be expensive, but honestly, I'm not somebody who goes on like big vacations or anything. I think that the money that I'd normally spend on recreation and vacations would be well spent on making a car specifically to go on the dirt out of something that was never meant to do that, and probably destroying it like 20 times, putting it back together, like that kind of stuff. I know that a lot of people see it as tedious, but that's my dream. That's the kind of thing I want to do. Maybe I'm a little bit weird that way, but I actually like it when things go wrong on my cars. Like, for instance, my Infiniti, the one that I just bought a couple months ago, had an issue where the passenger seat wouldn't move. It was not moving because the contacts on the switches were a little bit charcoaly. So I took the seat apart, took that apart, and I really enjoyed getting it to work again. With a lot of people, they don't even bother with that stuff. It's just the passenger seat, who cares? But for me, it's an event. It's like, this is something that I've been looking forward to. And so, yeah. That's pretty much that. I'm kind of just that way. All in all, the reality of it is I might not find cars like this in the future. I might not find what I'm looking for at all. I could still obviously join a rally crew, it's not a crew, it's a club, with anything. But I just have this idea for a Mercedes, and I just think that it'd be super cool. Looking around though, it seemed like that might be a one-off thing, to find a 2004 like that, with, like, in reasonable condition for only $2,000. Most of them that I've seen are E-classes from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and they're not great. They're a little bit too big, I would say, at least from the pictures. One of the things I was looking for specifically was size. I think that something in the smaller range would be better. And obviously, judging by the field here, you can see that that's the case. I'm driving a Focus. We've got a bunch of Fiestas up there. Like, that's the kind of size that you're looking for. Sure, you could drift a big legacy wagon or something, but I just I'm kind of a man of the smaller cars. I do like this car though. It's probably like a 2007 Focus. I didn't know that they made them ST back then. Ooh, come on. I'm incredibly thankful that it hasn't crashed yet, but I'm kind of just thinking that it might be teetering on the edge of it, you know what I mean? I need it to stay until I can save the Audacity file, and then it can crash once, and then I can get my stuff rendered, and then it can crash again, and then I can upload it, and then it'll crash again, which is fine. So it's all about timing those crashes properly, but unfortunately they are sporadic. My computer has this crashing problem kind of intermittently. Sometimes it'll be really bad and you can't even go on there for 5 minutes without it crashing, and then sometimes it just never happens. Like the past couple of weeks, I haven't had any crashes at all. And all of a sudden it's back, so I don't know why. It's already crashed like 3 times today. Anyway. Let's continue with this. So this is actually turning out to be a really long video, but I think it's seeming longer because I have been talking for longer than the video's length has been, due to the previously recorded versions, and my voice is definitely feeling it. So tomorrow for me is a really long day. Wednesdays. I'm recording this on a Tuesday. A little secret for you if you made it this far. But Wednesdays are super busy days for me, and I spend like 9 hours at school, so that's why. I am kind of distracted at the moment, I don't know why. But it's just such a busy day. I've got a really big break during the day, and I've been saving YouTube videos to watch in my subscription feed, so I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to catch up on all the fail race videos from today and yesterday, and the ones for tomorrow as well. And that'll cover like 2 hours at a time, because he makes such long videos, I love it. And then all the other creators and everybody that I watch. It's going to take up more of my time, but you know what? This is the time that I've got to burn at this point, so I don't mind. Alright, over the water crossing for the last time here. And we're we're dying, apparently. Well, that was an odd one, but my voice is now completely gone. I'm actually going to die, like, right now. Okay. But go over that water crossing, and then we're continuing around these corners, over onto the pavement again, and then off the pavement again. That was shortly lived. Onto this bend and around the line, please, for the love of God. Thank you. 350, not bad.
What an amazing finish!
I think that we might have one race left, but I'm not sure. If we do, I don't mind. Yeah, that was a pretty good race there. Oh no, we finished it. Hey, that's great. 2 first places, they took a long time, and we've got a lot of them left, but hopefully you're enjoying this series. I'm going to have to end it here because I do not want the computer to crash, so thank you for watching, and see you tomorrow for whatever happens. It might not be Smite. It might be, though. Be careful.